Welcome to another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. Luke and Logan here. It's NFL playoff week. We have a great episode this week. Very exciting stuff happening this week, and we actually have stuff that kind of overshadows the playoffs the last couple of days. We'll get into that here shortly. Luke, what's been your reaction to the news lately, and how much are you looking forward to the start of the playoffs this weekend?
It's good that we waited until Thursday because as everyone saw today, Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways. Was it yesterday? I'm being so lost. Yesterday or Tuesday, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban. I know
It was
that's not.
yesterday.
Yeah, Nick
Both of
Saban.
those things happened yesterday.
Nick Saban retired. I know that's not as much NFL, but that's just sort of, football. Nick Saban's like one of the goats of all football. So it's been a interesting week seeing like all these heavy hitters now are just on the market. Again, Jim Harbaugh, you never know. Mike Vrabel's out there. And then it's just all like we get this discussion for like today and another day. And then Saturday we get playoffs. And it's a good week. Good week. Kind of crazy to see all this movement.
Yeah, and we kind of already entered the conversation of what we were going to get into today with coaching changes. But in addition to that, we were also doing our first NFL mock draft that we have ever done on this podcast, and we will do for this mock draft. We will do the first 18 picks, as all those picks have already been set in stone. Of course, the picks can be traded in real time, but as well, we will be doing our wildcard round predictions. And for the mock draft, just a quick disclaimer: these are picks that we think will happen, not what we would do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just an interesting thing: we do have trades incorporated into our mock draft, so it's not just set in stone of picks 1 through 18 where the teams are. We have some moving around, and we are interested to see each other's mock draft. We have not unveiled each other's mock draft to each other, so
we'll probably have some similar stuff because we think alike in some ways. But
I'm very interested to see what Luke has. But before we get into that, we're going to get into what we've already started talking about, which is the major NFL coaching changes and even college coaching changes with Nick Saban retiring and possibly Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan. But what was which move of the three shocked you the most of Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, and Pete Carroll?
Pete Carroll, I know we talked about it. I think we talked about it last week, like a whole reset of Seattle. And, I kind of consider it not the worst idea. I think Pete Carroll's really good and all. But I didn't think it was the worst idea, but I didn't think it happened. Like Bill Belichick, I was like 65% sure he's going to stay, so I was wrong. Vrabel, I was feeling like he was going to leave. There's just a little too much stuff. But the Pete Carroll thing, and then it was like, oh, he's going to be an advisor. And then he comes out, it's like, oh, that dude wants a coach. So I think that's fun. Because I think, like, Belichick, I'm kind of getting, like, I think they said Washington and Falcons really want him. I just have a Falcons feeling on Belichick, Arthur Blank, But Pete Carroll's interesting. I think Chargers could be interesting for Pete Carroll. I mean, it'd be funny if he went back to the Patriots. Who knows what's going on?
Have you ever thought about possibly him going to Atlanta and bringing Russell Wilson with him? Has that been an idea that's kind of...
I don't think him and Russell Wilson liked each other at the end, though. So
that's just been something that I just kind of thought about, just as you were talking about Atlanta and all that.
Russell Wilson,
but I wouldn't do it. But I think it's just an idea for maybe people to think about.
No, yeah, maybe. See, I forgot who I said it. It may have been Colin Cowherd who said it, but Jim Harbaugh to Washington was interesting because, like, I guess the Harbaugh's really close, and we saw that when they won the national title. Him with his parents with John Harbaugh, but then Jim and John Harbaugh would be like very close to each other during the year because Baltimore and Washington, and you get like this whole new ownership. You get the second pick. He probably recruited Drake May and Caleb, so probably has a good feel. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting. So what do you think would be the best fit for Pete Carroll if he decided to, leave the Seahawks as an advisor? Where do you think the best fit would be?
I like him with the Chargers. I like he won a national title in the city. The Chargers don't have like that. They have Herbert, but fans just don't gravitate to the Chargers there. They barely even gravitate to the Rams. So they just need something. I think Pete Carroll would be great. Set a culture. I think that's what they need. They don't need a great play caller. They don't need this. They need a culture. And Pete
See,
Carroll does that. And he's full of energy. And I think he could bring out the best in Justin Herbert. His energy. Herbert, you don't really see that a lot. I think it could be a great match. He could fix that defense. The offense you can maybe take care of in the draft. I like Chargers.
See,
That's
for
my
me, I
go-to.
think for Chargers, if you really want to get fans interested in the team and kind of change the culture, I think Jim Harbaugh is a better fit there. But I kind of get where you're coming from with Pete Carroll just kind of getting some energy there. But I think Jim Harbaugh, I think could set a better culture for the franchise as a whole. I think if you gain Jim Harbaugh, a lot more people are going to gravitate towards Jim Harbaugh, I think, than Pete Carroll, especially Chargers fans.
Here's my thing. I like Pete Carroll to go somewhere with an established quarterback. It's like for me, like Atlanta, like you said, like he's not. I don't think bringing Russell. Washington doesn't have one. Obviously, you can go trade and stuff. Carolina has Bryce Young, so maybe that's not a Pete Carroll one. I think that could be a Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, I like a place like Atlanta, Washington, Carolina. Carolina, I'll count with Bryce Young. I still really like Bryce Young, where he gets a young guy and he helps groom him. But I like for Pete Carroll to go into a place where it's just like, okay, we have quarterback, but we have this issue, this issue, this issue. Fix it. That's what I think Pete Carroll would be good for. I think Harbaugh's more start building something rather than fix what's there.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Mike Vrabel firing, which I think was 2 days. It wasn't yesterday, but it was 2 days ago. And I know it wasn't part of the shock moves from yesterday because there's two major moves yesterday, and then Bill Belichick this morning, which we'll get into. Mike Vrabel, I think it was a weird situation. I think there was always an idea that they could move on from him. There's reports that his contract was expiring and he may have had issues with the GM there and all that. For me, I was kind of shocked that they fired him. I know that there was trade or like possibly trading him to another team, but I think they were probably waiting for the Patriots because I think that is a spot for Mike Vrabel is the Patriots. I think that makes a lot of sense, but that one was kind of the one that surprised me. Not more than Pete Carroll, but that was one that definitely surprised me. I think Mike Vrabel, I think on the coaching market, he's got to be a top 3-4 option, I think, for many teams. I know there's Ben Johnson out there too. Where do you think is his best fit? I mean, I know New England for me is probably his best fit, but where do you think he is best to, build a team and build a foundation?
Okay, this one I think is interesting. See, okay, first off, I don't think anyone gets hired until after this week of playoffs because let's say Eagles, Cowboys.
If Eagles lose, I think that job could be open.
Eagles lose, Cowboys lose. I think there's
what about Miami? Is there any chance Miami?
I don't think so. That one I'd be very surprised. But I think Steelers is maybe if Buffalo goes in and whoops them, even though. Could you imagine if Mike Tomlin is then out there and you're just like, oh my gosh?
Because I think Mike Tomlin kind of saved his job by making the playoffs. I think if they didn't make the playoffs, I think, or even like finishing over 500, I think.
What if he decides to move on? I remember Adam Schefter said something. He didn't say like, oh, this is going to happen, but he was like, oh, what if Tomlin moves on? Like, what if he does? That'd be. So I don't think anyone's going to get hired because if Tomlin was on the market all of a sudden, that'd be crazy. But Las Vegas for Vrabel. I know everyone likes Pierce and he did a good job, but most of the time it doesn't work when you just keep an interim.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. He's done a great job. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, add to what you're saying. Antonio Pierce, I bet he's a great person, great motivator. But once you get through that, is he X's and O's guy, or is he just a guy who can motivate players?
Well, it's like then you have a whole off season, and like I don't think people are going to adjust for that off season.
Exactly. So I think Antonio Pierce is actually a really solid coach, and maybe down the line he can fortify himself into one of these top head coaches. But right now, if I'm Raiders, I would try to add somebody, a Jim Harbaugh. I would try to make a splash move. You're in Las Vegas. I would try to do something like that. So I'm totally on board with you in those terms. For Vrabel, I mean, going back to Vrabel real quick, I didn't even notice this. He was 1-9 in division games the last 2 years.
Yeah, they kind of fell apart.
So, yeah, and I don't think they haven't won a playoff game since 2020, I believe. I believe that was the stat I saw. So it's been quite a few years since they've had playoff success as well. So it was shocking that they fired him. I was more expecting that they would, try to trade him or just kind of, let him. And now it's like
they said they didn't want to do a trade.
Yeah.
Which the Rooney Rule makes trading coaches tough because you have to interview a minority head coaching candidate, and then you have to go through that. So if you have a guy you want, and then it's a little complicated there, which I get that. But
let's move on. Oh,
I have
you had something.
So I have something with Vrabel. Then I want to ask you something. So with the Raiders, so I think Kirk Cousins. I really like Kirk Cousins. I think it's so interesting. Like searching coaches, like let's say like Belichick goes to Atlanta. That could be like a Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta, or like Vrabel with Las Vegas. He gets a defense and then he gets a vet in Kirk Cousins. It says you have Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker. Trey Tucker's pretty solid. You got Michael Mayer. Probably can't keep Jacob Mayer. You probably can't keep Josh Jacobs if you do that, but maybe you can. And then that's like the Raiders would be tough. But what do you feel like for Seattle? Do you think they get a young guy, a veteran coach?
I know Dan Quinn's been a name that's circulated, and
Yeah, I don't like that. Not a fan.
the thing is,
too much Pete Carroll-esque.
we've seen Dan Quinn as a head coach, and he's a great defense coordinator. But we've already seen him as head coach. It didn't really pan out, and he's kind of the same, not same, but he's the same type of style that Pete Carroll is.
He's from Pete Carroll's.
Exactly. Yeah. If I'm Seattle, I'm going after Ben Johnson. I'm possibly going after Jim Harbaugh. I'm going to try to get him, maybe lure a quarterback in the draft in. I'm going an offensive guy because I know the defense wasn't that great, but I think if you can get the right defensive people in that organization, I think the defense can play well because I still think there's talent within that defensive room. But I think their offense, it needs to take a step. You got too many weapons in this year not to even make the playoffs, and you're not even averaging that many points. I would hire a Ben Johnson, or if you really want to feel aggressive, go after Jim Harbaugh. But I think Ben Johnson's actually a really good fit.
How about the Texans OC? Bobby, I think terrible with his last name.
I think he needs another year as the OC, and then I think his name will start picking up. I think it's too soon to just anoint him as a head coach candidate. He's done great with Texas this year.
Wouldn't you say like so? But last year, wouldn't you say teams made a mistake not hiring Ben Johnson, and that's probably how he was viewed?
Well, the thing is, Ben Johnson got a huge raise from the Lions to stay.
But I think that they were sort of similar. I don't know. I think you strike.
I never want to jump too early on a coach and anoint them.
But you could miss out on a great coach.
Because being an offense coordinator, being a head coach is completely different.
No, obviously we don't know what we're not in the interview room. We don't know like how much of a leader they are and stuff. But that could be something. Maybe a dark horse, but I still think. But if I'm Seattle, I think Ben Johnson's probably number one on my list, just because. Even like in realistic terms, because I think Jim Harbaugh, I think is kind of unrealistic for Seattle. I think he may have his eyes more on Chargers, Las Vegas, those other teams. Ben Johnson is unrealistic too, because let's say you're Ben Johnson, you're going to Seattle, they're probably rebuilding a little bit, tearing it down. You can go there, or you can go to a situation in Carolina where I know your owner may be nuts, but he also may pay you $20 million a year, and you can. I don't know. I think.
Oh, if you give me the choice, if so, you're saying Carolina for $20 million. What if he's offered? Let's say he's offered $17 million a year to go to Seattle. I think he must rather go there.
Well, there's a lot of factors. But
because the thing with Seattle, you can also
$20 million, man.
Here's the thing. One, I'm not going. Carolina has no stability, and the owner. I don't want to be.
No, it's an issue.
You're probably if you don't have instant success, which is gonna be hard to do now to build a team around Bryce Young because you traded a lot of future picks. So you're gonna have to go into free agency, maybe overpay for some veterans. If I'm him, Seattle, I think there's more stability, and I think you have a better chance of winning right away. And he may not even like Bryce Young. At least in Seattle, maybe you can go and choose your own quarterback, which I think a lot of these coaches want.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
I'd rather go to Seattle and build something there.
I just don't know if they're offering the type. Who even says Seattle offers 17? Maybe they just offer like 12.
If I'm Ben Johnson, and we'll move on to Bill Belichick here soon. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'd rather go to Atlanta than Carolina. Weak division. You possibly could choose your own quarterback. I'd rather go to
money's money, man. Money. If you get $20 million, you get $20 million. I'm not. If you want to go get your money, it's a job. I'm all for it.
I think Carolina, whoever goes there, you're gonna be on a short leash right away, and you can be fired within a year or two.
Or David
That's
Tepper has to keep you because he knows what he's creating, and he knows that he can't fire someone else like that.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. We'll move on to Bill Belichick. It was just announced this morning that him and the Patriots are mutually parting ways. I kind of expected this move. I know that you were kind of on the fence of he may stay, he may go.
He's a legend, man. He's a legend.
I know, but all things end, and it was time to move on. They've been at a standstill of not doing anything, and he hasn't been able to develop a quarterback, and there's been major question marks within that building, of the foundation of it. I think for him, I think the Chargers are kind of a perfect fit if the Chargers are willing to do that. Their defense has been really bad the last couple of years, and it's not because of the lack of talent. I think it's more of scheme. But if you can get Bill Belichick paired with that talent on the defensive side of the ball, I think their defense can actually make extraordinary steps in the right direction.
No, yeah.
And he already says quarterback. You already have Herbert. You get an OC in there. And they already have Kellen Moore, but I don't know if they stay with Kellen Moore. But I think Bill Belichick with the Chargers is him and Jim Harbaugh make the most sense for me.
I like the Chargers. I keep checking Twitter to see when they're gonna announce who's interviewing who. I like Chargers, but my gut's telling me he goes to Atlanta. He brings Josh McDaniels as OC, and he gets like a Kirk. If he goes to Atlanta, see, I'm getting a little more. I don't have any more affiliation to the Falcons now that they did not win the division, but part of me will still root for them just because I had so much. But it'll be interesting if Atlanta, their draft will be very depicted. Like, I feel like whoever gets Bill Belichick, if they don't have a quarterback right now, it's like a Kirk Cousins or maybe a Geno Smith if he's available or someone like that. And they probably won't draft. So my gut's telling me Belichick, McDaniels to Atlanta, and they go snag Kirk. That's my gut. It's my gut feel. But obviously, for whatever reason, way off.
Bill Belichick in Atlanta just doesn't really seem like a good fit to me. I think he wants to go somewhere where they either have a high draft pick to get an established quarterback, or they already have an established quarterback there. I don't think he wants to do one of these other draft a rookie or get a rookie quarterback mid first round and kind of. I think
he would like Kirk
to be honest, I think Chargers and Commanders make the most sense for Bill Belichick. I think the ownership for Commanders could be aggressive, gain him and gain pieces around to help Bill Belichick. But
do you think Bill wants to draft a quarterback with the second pick?
That's what I was saying. What I was saying was because they drafted Mac Jones 15th overall. But if you can get a high enough pick where you can get either a Caleb Williams or Drake May, again, kind of a guy that's not established yet but has the best chance of establishing himself right away, I think Commanders make sense. But I think right now, I think Chargers are by far the top destination for Bill Belichick.
It also depends on how much control he wants in the front office. Because Washington, they hired that one dude, and they hired Bob Myers into their front office thing. So I feel like Atlanta, he'd also have more control. And Arthur Blank wants a Super Bowl probably. So I think he'd be like, Bill, take it. Just get it for me. So that's why I'm feeling Atlanta.
It just seems like odd fit to me. That's all. I just think. I don't know. I
think it'd be really fun. It'd be fun, and Josh McDaniels is going wherever Bill's going. That's my one prediction. Josh is gonna follow.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add to this conversation before we move into our mock draft?
Trying to think of all the spots.
Oh,
Bill
actually,
Belichick in Las Vegas would be funny.
One more okay.
He's like, hey, let me bring Josh back as OC.
Here's what I wanted to ask before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your top 3 destinations for coaching destinations? Not for Bill Belichick, but just if you're a coach, what would be the top 3 destinations? Do we both agree Chargers are 1, or do you think it's
Chargers 1, Washington 2?
Okay.
Kind of like Vegas.
See, I think mine is Chargers. I'm gonna say Chargers, Atlanta, Washington.
Okay, and Eagles and Cowboys jump to first place if either of them are open.
Yeah, I'd probably move Chargers down to 2 if that happened.
Okay,
we'll get into Nick Sirianni here a little bit later, But I really don't know if this guy's a good head coach. I don't want to get into the whole.
I was being really defendant because like they nearly won a Super Bowl, but yeah, it's you gotta win this week.
Yeah, I mean we saw Doug Pearson get fired 2 years after winning Super Bowl in Philly.
See, okay, that's my favorite Bill Belichick place actually. If he goes to Eagles, if they fire Sirianni.
Yeah, it'll be tough. Right now, I think just gotta look at the open spots available, and that'll be a completely different discussion for.
And then Harbaugh to Dallas if that comes open.
Yeah. Are you ready to move into our mock draft?
I'm excited.
All right.
Obviously, I think these first few picks will be.
All right. So before we get into it, just want to mention again, we are only doing the first 18 picks. So those are the non-playoff teams, and we won't be trading off picks. We'll each be giving our pick for each team. So there'll be 36 total picks potentially of different players. It won't be different all the way around, but we will each be giving all of our picks for the first 18 picks.
That's not a bad future idea, though. We do it live where we trade off and like maybe in like a month.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you start with the first pick and I'll start with the second, and we'll just keep rotating from there. So you take the first pick first.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll take the
Caleb.
second.
It's really about, do you think Justin Fields, it's Bears keep the pick, take Caleb. Do you think Justin Fields deserves to keep the job? And I say, let him go. You get Caleb. For me, it's not much of a discussion. Like, I'm literally taking zero thought into it. And I'm just like, I'm taking Caleb. You know, you got to do like the interview process, all that. Make sure he's not a wacko or anything. Make sure he's a dog. Which, even though I don't care that he cries, I don't care. But yeah, Caleb.
Yeah, I'm also Caleb Williams. I think you reset the quarterback clock, quarterback contract. You reset that, and I think as you know, I'm a big Justin Fields guy, but I think at this point, it's just not going to work out in Chicago, and maybe it'll work out somewhere else. I still believe in his talent. I still believe if he lands in Atlanta or somewhere, they can maximize his talent. But I think if you're Chicago, you got to take Caleb here, and I know there's people saying like maybe Drake May, but I think Caleb Williams definitely has the highest ceiling, highest potential in this draft. And I think if he can develop right in this system and you build a strong team around him, I think there's definitely a shot that in 2-3 years Chicago is a perennial contender.
Yeah, I just don't see them. I don't see him passing on Caleb Williams. The fact that also, what's his name? I'm blanking. Pace, is that the GM?
Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles. Ryan Pace was the first one. He was the one.
Yeah, I got to mix it up. Yeah, the fact that he said like, "Oh, we're looking at all four quarterbacks." I think,
and even when he's asked about the OC position, he was talking about how it would fit with all four quarterback styles. So
yeah, I think they're taking one. I think they're BSing that like, oh, they're good. I think they know they're taking one.
Yeah, and I think they should take one at this point. You reset the quarterback clock, and you get a quarterback that has much more talent and much higher ceiling than Justin Fields. For my second pick, and before these picks, I'll also announce the team and if they trade the pick. So I have Washington Commanders here. I have them keeping the pick, and I think it's another no-brainer decision. I think they take Drake May. You got to get a quarterback in there. Washington, they've been searching for a quarterback for seems like years now. I don't remember the last time they've had a formidable quarterback in there. That
Kirk Cousins, RG3 for the time for Cousins.
Okay, but I think you take Drake May here. I think this is also a no-brainer decision. When I was doing this, before I kind of came to my senses of Chicago taking Caleb Williams, I was kind of thinking that Commanders are really aggressive, new ownership, and they trade up to number one pick and take Caleb Williams. But I think Chicago, it just makes too much sense. So I have Commanders keeping this pick and taking Drake May. Pretty much no-brainer pick.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I really like Drake May. I do, and I bet Washington does. I think it's pretty simple. I think, the first two picks are simple. I think that there'll be a lot of discussion about it, and then it'll just be like, Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2. Okay, what do the picks?
And before the draft, there's always these stupid rumors of, teams like possibly Chicago thinking Drake May over Caleb. Which these rumors always happen. And then there's rumors like C.A. Stroud not being smart enough and his test scores really low, and then I think it's just teams trying to plummet his stock so that they can trade up for him. So
I think those are like locked in.
Yep.
So I'll move on to the third pick. I will say I'm happy. before I thought Bill Belichick was staying, I thought that he was going to stay and they're going to be like, hey, you got to switch things up. And I thought, again, I love my Kirk Cousins stuff this offseason. That's the most interesting thing this entire offseason to me after these coaches stuff gets settled. But I had Marvin Harrison Jr. before, but now I have Jaden Daniels. I think they're going to go a whole new direction in New England. We didn't even talk about who New England's going to get as a head coach. I guess we mentioned Vrabel but I think they'll get Jaden Daniels. I mean, that dude's a dual threat. He could be a stud. I think they're going to come in and we have to switch it up. You fire Bill Belichick, you don't go with the status quo. You change it up, and I think Jaden Daniels is what they'll do. No, he's dual threat. He's really good, Heisman winner. And I think whoever they bring in as head coach, it's like this is going to be our new face and got to make it work. So I think Jaden Daniels, New England.
Okay, this is the first disagreement. I do have the Patriots team.
You did not go with him?
I don't know. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. here.
Oh, and I know I had him, but that's interesting.
No, I had him. I wrote this mock draft up last night, and I kind of redid some stuff. I had a mock draft written up a couple of nights ago, but I redid it last night. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Here's why. One, I think Mike Vrabel gets a job. So I think what's going to happen is that they're going to draft the best player on the board. I think the most surefire pick on the board is Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think they go get either Ryan Tannehill with Mike Vrabel or they go get Kirk Cousins. And then I think, and I'm not a huge fan of this quarterback prospect at all, but I think they end up drafting J.J. McCarthy in round 2 or 3. And they have Ryan Tannehill or Kirk Cousins. I think that's what they do. And I think they're going to try to sit McCarthy for a year and then maybe let him lose his second year. But that's kind of where my thought process is. And I know it's probably not a popular pick and probably not a popular reason. But
I don't hate it. I
think that's where the Patriots go. I think they've been dying for a receiver. I think if you get a guy who you know for sure is going to be really good. Because Jaden Daniels, he's kind of grown on me. I know we've had disagreements about him. But I think if you're going to grab somebody at 3, I think the Patriots want a guy that they know is almost a guarantee to hit.
Got me rethinking a little, but I'm going to stick with Daniels. But if they get Kirk, I was all MHJ if they kept Belichick.
And the only reason I mentioned Tannehill is because of Vrabel. So if you bring in a common quarterback,
there's no way. I don't think he's starting next year anywhere.
I'll move on to the 4th pick. So it is the Arizona Cardinals. I have them keeping the pick.
Okay.
And I have them taking offensive tackle Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. And I think they'll move him over to right tackle. I think with Kyler, he's a smaller quarterback. He already has an ACL injury. He kind of picks up injuries here and there. I think Cardinals need to prioritize adding to his protection. And you got Paris Johnson last draft, and I think they continue to bolster the offensive line and get a right tackle to protect Kyler Murray.
I think that's a fine pick. Obviously, mine's different. I mean, if you want to protect Kyler, then you'd have theoretically your 2 tackles set up. And I think they're fine in the interior, I believe, but not great.
I mean, as a whole, their offensive line's not great.
Yeah, but that'd be so I don't hate it, but I think at the same time with my mock draft with Daniels being gone and Marvin still being there, I'm taking Marvin. You get Kyler his 1, you have McBride, maybe you keep Marquise, maybe you don't, but you have Marvin there, and you say, okay, Kyler, Marvin, be a stud. You got McBride, who I think is a stud. Our dynasty team's going to love him. He's a stud. And I think that way he has 2 legit targets. O-line, you've drafted a young guy. Maybe you sign a veteran in the offseason. Yeah, that's where I think they go. And then as I move on to pick 5, my first trade.
Okay.
I thought of this morning, and I was like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. With the Giants being at 6 and Tennessee being at 7, possibly Nino lineman. I have the Chargers trading back to 10 and the Jets trading up to the 5th pick. I don't have the trade written out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Could have done that, but don't have it written out.
That's too complicated. There's so many moving parts.
I have them taking Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt. Okay. With him and Fashanu, it's really it's a mix. I mean, I think it's sort of hard to predict which lineman goes first. I think it's always harder for people like us to evaluate linemen unless we get all the film and stuff. So it's really just pick your poison. I'm going Joe Alt here with Aaron Rodgers next year. I mean, you saw whoever, Zach Wilson, Simeon, whoever, they were getting brutalized. You need a tackle. Like if they don't take a tackle, it's ridiculous. So I think they're going to go all in on it, trade up to 5. Chargers get a little more back.
So would Jets have to, because they don't have a 2 this year? Would they have to give up a number 1? Would they have to give up next year's 1 to make this move possibly?
You may give up next year's 1 and then get a 2 from the Chargers next year. I mean, I'm going all in to protect Aaron Rodgers for this year because he says multiple years, but he says a lot of things. So
I don't really listen to him.
Yeah, I'm just protecting him with Joe Alt, Vera Tucker, maybe Becton, who knows. You just got to go in. And I think they're just going to say, screw it. We're going all in. Rodgers, we're not signing some James Stark or some random guy you used to play with who you like. We're just getting this guy. So that's my route.
I also would trade this pick. So I was kind of interested. I think Chargers are a great place to trade up your team. Yeah, trade team.
I bet we have them taking the same player later.
So I have Chargers trading the pick to the Vikings, and I have Vikings taking quarterback Jayden Daniels. Vikings last year, there's been reports that they were super aggressive trying to get Anthony Richardson. Mm-hmm. And although Jayden Daniels isn't as big as Richardson, weight-wise, I think, 6'4", can run, has a really good arm. I think it makes a lot of sense for Vikings. And I think at this point they need to turn the page to a new quarterback and kind of get some juice in there. And you're going to be paying Justin Jefferson here soon. So I think train up, gain a rookie quarterback that you think can elevate your team. I think Jayden Daniels is a pick here to the Vikings.
I like that. I think that'd be an interesting fit. I didn't watch it, but I saw something where it said the Vikings GM kind of made it sound like they know they got to get quarterback fully solved, but they didn't rule out Kirk. But I think if you trade up for any of the top 4 guys, you just got to say, Kirk, you've been great, but it's time to go.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep. 6th pick. It's the Giants, and I have the Giants keeping the pick, and I have them taking offensive tackle Joe Alt. I think they need to shore up the offensive line. And this is a pick where I was kind of thinking about receiver, but this draft is filled with receivers. I think you can get a receiver 2nd round. So I think they need to shore up the offensive line, keep Daniel Jones healthy or whatever quarterback they have back there in the future, because I do think Daniel Jones will be gone after next season. But I think, shoring up the offensive line, getting the right side of the line right, I think Joe Alt's a really good fit for the Giants here. And I think that's what they end up doing.
I just have Shanu from Penn State. Not much I need to say. But first off, Daniel Jones, don't cut him out. And maybe Evan Neal works out at guard. Because you have Andrew Thomas. Evan Neal's not a good tackle. Move him to guard. Shanu maybe works in, and then you maybe have something there. So, not much else to explain because you got it. But then I'll go on to my 7th pick. Similar to your 5th pick. I have Tennessee trading back to 11 with Minnesota. So 4 picks up. And Minnesota grabs Penix. You basically explained it with Daniels. Obviously, Penix isn't the runner. But you could throw Penix right into that system with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne stays and Hawkinson. And he can sling it. And then you can be like, I don't think he's as good as Kirk. But he maybe has more potential. Who knows? Maybe not, but I see that as a nice spot for Penix. Right away, Vikings are still contending for the playoffs with Penix. Maybe get him a lineman at some point. Shore up that offensive line because Kirk Cousins really took hits last year. But I like Penix, and obviously he was out for the year before he took hits. But just 4 trades back, they don't give up as much as maybe they would in your trade.
Okay. I actually really... I get where you're coming from on that pick. I think we said, quarterbacks flip, so that's why. Mm-hmm. But that does make a lot of sense. For my 7th pick, I have the Titans taking wide receiver Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I think I was really close to picking offensive lineman, both Joe Alt and Fashanu already off the board. I thought that would be kind of a forced pick. And I think the Titans, they need to get Will Levis more weapons around him. I think Treylon Burks may be a miss. Hopkins is definitely not a long-term answer at receiver. And I think Malik Neighbors, explosiveness, speed, I think he makes a lot of sense for the Titans here.
No, yeah, I like that. I like that. They need a receiver, receiver lineman. They just need to go one of them. Don't draft defense. I know the defense wasn't great, but help. Will if you think Will Levis is your guy, help him out.
Mhm. Next pick 8. I have the Falcons staying at the pick, and I have them taking edge rusher Dallas Turner out of Alabama. I think it's
Same here. Same here. Same.
I
pick.
think it's a no-brainer pick for Atlanta, and I think for them, it's really the only hole on their defense is a pass rusher. They don't really have a pass rush, and I think offensively, they've taken 3 skill position players in the last 3 drafts. So I think they need to focus on defense, and I think quarterback. Some people may say go get quarterback here. I think they either get Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields in the offseason. I think they make a trade for Fields or they sign Kirk Cousins in free agency. But I think this is another no-brainer pick, and you got to get edge rusher.
Okay. That's my same pick. You said everything I was going to say. So I'll just move on to my 9th pick. And with the 8th and 9th pick, it was just deciding which pass rusher. But in my head for Atlanta, I was going, I think Belichick's going to be there. Nick Saban's going to tell him Dallas Turner's really good. Belichick loves drafting Bama players, so he's going to draft Bama. And at 9, I have the Bears drafting the other edge rusher, Jared Verse from Florida State. I think maybe him and Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat, not a terrible trade. I was not a fan of it. It's not a bad trade, but I think you probably need to get him a second guy. And I think Jared Verse could be that second guy. I probably, based off what I've watched, I haven't gone all in. I think I like Verse over Turner, but in my scenario, I have Turner being drafted ahead. But as a player, I really like Verse, so I think Chicago, that could be a great pick for them. They took Verse there. They got Montez and him. Shore up the defense even more. You keep Eberflus. You drafted Caleb, and they'd be looking good. In this scenario, if they had Verse and Caleb Williams, you could possibly have the best player and then the best defensive player from this draft.
Yeah, I agree. I get where you're coming from there, and for me with Dallas Turner is more. I think he's just a safer prospect, but I think Verse has a really high ceiling. I think Verse is very athletic and a freak athlete. But for my 9th pick, I have the Bears staying there, and I have them taking wide receiver Rome Odunze. And I think for them, you get DJ Moore, but I think you want to add another receiver in that room. I mean, the Bears really, outside of DJ Moore and maybe Cole Kmet, you could say, don't really have reliable weapons. And Caleb Williams can always elevate pieces possibly. But I think if you compare him with Roman Dunze and DJ Moore, I mean, that offense, I think, would be really elite. And I think defensively, I think they have enough pieces there. And I think they probably get a pass rusher later in the draft. But I think Roma Dunze at 9 right here, I think the Bears are not going to be able to pass him up.
See, I just think that they'll go defense because they went offense with the first pick. I think it'll be like the Texans from last year where they took Stroud. This one I don't have Bears trading up, but then they traded up for Will Anderson. I think it'll be like that. And then, I mean, their perfect scenario would be they follow again and they go get someone who's Tank Dell-esque like Houston.
I mean, yeah.
And Caleb
like I said,
maybe
there's
can
plenty
make
of depth
another.
in this draft and receiver.
Yeah, so that's
I think
why
I think Roma Dunze for the Bears would be too hard to pass up at the spot. I really do. Who always me for 10th pick? That's right.
Yeah.
So I have the Jets. I have them keeping the pick, and they need offensive tackle desperately. So I think they're just going to take the best one on the board and take Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. I think he's a very safe pick. I think he's going to be very solid for them. He may not be, Joe Alt or Fashanu, but I think Fuaga is a very good left tackle and should be more than serviceable for the Jets moving forward.
I don't mind that at all. Oh man, my computer's a little low. But at my 10th pick, I have the Chargers trading back there. And if Jets taking tackle, that's fine. I have Brock Bowers. I was deciding which weapon. And I sort of decided that it's going to be Neighbors or Bowers. And I just think there's a chance to keep Mike and Keenan. And then I just take Bowers there. I love Bowers as a tight end. I think they take him. You get that guy up the middle. I think you've seen with these young tight ends, they're capable of coming in now and really being effective. And I think if you gave Justin Herbert that big, massive, just security blanket who can also go down the field and make plays, I think that'd be great for them no matter who the coach is. You get assets. You still get Bowers, who I may have had them take at the 5th pick. So I really like Bowers there.
Yep. We're going to have a similar pick. So I'll let you move on
Yeah.
to 11th pick, though.
11th pick. So this is where I had Tennessee, and I won't discuss this much because you had Tennessee take a player. This is Tennessee Minnesota trade. I have them taking Neighbors, and we already discussed how they could use a receiver. So yeah, I'll just let you go to your pick because you already basically touched the most points.
It's kind of funny because I have Chargers at 11. I haven't taken Brock Bowers. It makes too much sense to me. Their weapons are always getting hurt. I think they always are desperate for a weapon at the end of the season because they have too many weapons going down. And I think they would take Brock Bowers at 5, but I think they end up getting a lot of value for that 5th pick, trading back, and still end up with the same guy. So I think Chargers ending up with Brock Bowers is a really good pick right here because you move back 6 spots and you still get your guy.
Mm-hmm.
For the 12th pick, I have the Denver Broncos staying where they are, and I haven't taken quarterback Michael Penix. Michael Penix falls all the way to them, and they are able to snatch him off the board. I think with Sean Payton, he wants his own quarterback, and I think at this point, Michael Penix is clearly the best quarterback on the board, and I think they take him pretty quickly. And other than injuries, I really don't have any questions about him. I think he can anticipate well. He has a really good arm, live arm. And in Denver and higher altitude, you kind of need that. And I think Michael Penix would be a great fit with Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos offensive system.
I like that. If I had Penix available here, I'd probably have Penix be taken. But I just think that there'll be 4 quarterbacks early. In that note, I think Denver goes offense. But I was really Denver pick was tough for me. It was tough. If Neighbors was available, I probably would have gone with Neighbors. And I just, for some reason, I didn't see Odunze because he's sort of bigger, Sutton-esque. I see him just taking J.C. Latham, Bama tackle.
Okay.
I just see Sean Payton wanting to grab a tackle. I was looking at the depth chart earlier. It's like, they can use another one. And using their tackle, just maybe throw him a right tackle with Bulls left.
Well, what do they do with McGlinchey then?
Or McGlinchey.
Well, they have McGlinchey at right tackle right now.
Isn't McGlinchey on a 1 year? I may have that.
No, it was a multi-year deal.
Well, he wasn't that good. I just see Sean Payton shoring that up. Maybe that's a little messed up on my part, but maybe move someone to guard. McGlinchey was sort of a guard tackle out of college, so maybe that's the move. But I see him wanting to shore it up a little bit more.
Do you think Denver? Because with your pick, do you think they address quarterback later in the draft, or do you think they're potentially a spot for Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins?
I have no clue, man. I bet my gut says Sean Payton takes some vet for the year. Okay. Maybe drafts like a JJ McCarthy in day 2. See how that goes.
Who do you have for your 13th pick?
13th pick is another tough one. Let's look at the Raiders, and they're good at receiver. So dudes I have kind of fallen. And then I was thinking about Kool-Aid, but their secondary isn't terrible. If you look at it, kind of some young talent. Kool-Aid could still be a good pick. Sort of just say, you know what, we're going to have a great secondary. But I went with Latu, UCLA pass rusher. They haven't. Chandler Jones obviously did not work out alongside Max Crosby, and they haven't had that 2-star duo pass rusher. And I think teams want that duo pass rusher, a second guy. So that's where I think the Raiders go, and I think that's a pretty good fit. And I was thinking in my head to get Vrabel as head coach. That's kind of my gut feel. And Vrabel getting a pass rusher, really shore up the defense. Quarterbacks are gone, but maybe you sign a vet in the offseason, and you can say, hey, throw to Devontae and Jacoby. So, yeah, Latu. He's probably, I think all the pass rushers, they're sort of, these 3 are at least close to each other, and then there's a drop-off.
There's a drop-off. Definitely a drop-off. I was thinking about pass rusher for the Raiders, but they just drafted pass rusher in last year's first round, and Tyree Wilson. So I think
he's not going to work. He's not good.
And I don't think he will either, but I think they're going to give him a shot too. I think they draft cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. And I know you're definitely going to disagree with that.
You have him as your first one?
I do. I think his length and his ability to keep up with receivers, I think you have Max Crosby. I think you need to shore up that secondary. And yeah, they have solid pieces in secondary, but I think you need to try to get the number 1 corner. I think they have a lot of solid corners, but they don't have that one that can shut down an opposing receiver. So I like Nate Wiggins here, and I think for Raiders, they have to focus on defense, and maybe they address quarterback later in the draft. This was another tough pick for me because I think the Raiders could potentially go quarterback here, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to reach on one just to get one. I think they're going to go with best player, and best player fits their scheme, and I think Nate Wiggins is the pick.
I don't hate that. I would get Kool-Aid as my number one corner, but I thought about Kool-Aid for a lot, so it makes sense.
14, New Orleans Saints. This is one that I was kind of going back and forth on between multiple players. But I think for the Saints, they are desperate at the wide receiver position, and I have them going wide receiver Keon Coleman out of Florida State. And I think, he's a big body receiver, athletic, physical. I think for New Orleans, you already have Chris Olave, who's that smaller guy who can run routes. But I think Keon Coleman is a perfect fit for the Saints here.
That's your first one where I say no.
Okay.
Well, first off, I don't like Coleman he's probably lower on my rankings than most. I'm not a big Coleman guy. Even with he didn't put up a ton of great stats. I think he's more of a highlight dude, in my opinion. I could be dead wrong, but that's my opinion. And I don't have Saints picking here. I had one more trade. And because I had Odunze falling, and I also don't think they're going receiver. It's not my route. This would hurt us as Chiefs fans, or it would just be overall exciting though in the NFL. I don't think T. Higgins stays with Cincy. So I have Cincinnati trading up from 18 for Odunze. I like Odunze a lot. I had him falling much further than I thought. But him with Cincinnati would be dangerous. That's dangerous. But I just see it. I have this sense that Odunze is a Bengal, and they go snag him up, and they get a cheaper T. Higgins for 5 years.
Yeah, this was a spot where I also potentially thought of Cincinnati trading up, but I just don't think it would work out that way. But Odunze of the Bengals would definitely be a really good fit. I think it would actually in a couple of years probably be an upgrade over T. Higgins. I think Odunze is that good. I think it could be number one on team, but being number two behind Jamar Chase, I think is a really good fit for Odunze.
No, yeah, I like it a lot.
Who do you have at 15?
Okay, 15. Colts. There's another interesting one because I was thinking linemen, but I didn't really like any of the linemen left. I was kind of thinking a little bit about my boy Cooper Beebe, but I just don't think he goes that high, even though I honestly think he should. Just calling it Cooper Beebe, K-State Wildcat. That guy's going to be a monster, by the way. That's like a future All-Pro, and I'm not joking. But and they drafted Juju Brents last year, a cornerback. Used to be known as Julius, but with that, I have them taking Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and I was really because they had Brents who showed flashes. They have Kenny Moore who's good. And I was just looking at it man, if because they got people could throw the ball on them a little bit. I say they go get a true number one, pair him with my fellow cat. Wow, and I like Kool-Aid. I like him. I think the Colts have a lot of pieces, and I think they need another star, and I think Kool-Aid has a chance to be a star. So that was my
outside of whatever you just did, then your pick right there.
Wow.
I like the. Okay, you did it again. I like the pick, but for Colts, I think they need some help on the defensive line, and I think the best player on the board is edge rusher Jared Verse, and I think this would be a really good pick.
Oh my gosh, you didn't have Verse go yet? Jeez.
No, I did not. I have him slipping a little bit. And I think at this point, I think the Colts get the best player on the board, help that defensive out, which I think for Colts, it has to be a defensive player no matter what. I think offensive, you don't really need offense, maybe offensive, lineman maybe, but you've already drafted two receivers. You drafted Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. You drafted all those guys. I think it's time to help the defensive side of the ball out, and I think Jared Verse is by far the best player on the board remaining, and I think he makes the most sense at this spot.
I think if Verse is there, that's possibly better. I just don't have him there. I think that's good.
16th pick, and I'm interested to see what you think about this one. Seattle Seahawks. Another quarterback comes off the board. I haven't taken Bo Nix out of Oregon, and I think it may be a little bit. I think it may be a little bit of reach, but at this point, he can sit maybe for a little bit behind Geno Smith. And I think Bo Nix, he's the older quarterback. He's almost 24, but I like my quarterbacks to be very mature, and he's definitely shown growth in each of his 4 seasons. And this year he popped. I think for Seattle, I think it's a really good pick for them. I think they end up going this route because they want a quarterback that is twitchy, that's athletic, that has a big arm. I think Bo Nix checks all those boxes. And I think the fact that he's an older quarterback, if Geno Smith struggles next year for the first few weeks, I think they easily put Bo Nix in, and he can take the offense by storm and kind of elevate the pieces around him.
No, yeah, I had the same pick, all those same reasons. I'm a Bo Nix guy. I like Bo Nix there. I think he can sit, or you can get rid of Geno Smith and he can start right away. Athletic, big. I think they're getting, with moving on from Pete Carroll, they're getting someone. So that's where I have them going.
Who do you have at pick 17?
This was the toughest. I think Jacksonville, they're like, I mentioned Seattle, they have like no stars outside of Josh Allen. But Trayvon Walker's been better, so you have a pass rush.
Do you think they pay Josh Allen?
Yeah,
Before you make your pick.
If you don't pay him, you're idiots. You're idiots if you don't. I was like, you could go O-line, you can go receiver. I don't think you go pass rush, or you can go secondary. And I have Cooper DeJean from Iowa at cornerback, but a part of me really wants to switch it to Adonai Mitchell. But I'm going to stick with Cooper DeJean. They just, I think he has star potential. Obviously, everyone's talking about how he's the white cornerback, but not even including that because that doesn't matter. It's just, I think he's the move, but him or, I mean, a receiver could be useful, but I think they keep Ridley, and you have Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones is good, and you have Evan Ingram. Lineman, again, another Cooper Beebe thought, but I just don't think he gets picked this high. I mean, I think it would be a good pick. So I'm going Cooper DeJean, and that's my least confident. That and the Denver pick are my 2 least confident picks.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that pick personally. I think for Jacksonville, offensive tackle is the move here, and I think J.C. Latham, best tackle on the board. I think Jacksonville, you need to disrupt the offensive line. You need to protect Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is banged up for the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Sprained ankle, concussion, sprained AC joint. I think Jacksonville, and I agree with you that Jacksonville, I think there's a lot of holes on their team. This could be another spot, and I didn't have them do this, but this could definitely be a spot where Jacksonville trades back and gets more picks to shore up the rest of their roster. But I think you have to protect Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he got really banged up at the end of the year, and you're not going to win anything if Trevor Lawrence is not 100%.
I like that pick. It was tough.
Yep. Last pick of our mock draft, pick 18. I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them staying at the spot. I also have them taking offensive tackle. Armarius Mims out of Georgia. I think they need to make sure that Joe Burrow stays healthy. He's been hurt. I'm pretty sure every year he's been in the NFL, he's been hurt, and he's had 2 season-ending injuries in 4 years as a starter, I believe. So they need to make sure that he stays healthy. He's upright, and receiver could be a pick here for the Bengals, but I think you have to prioritize your franchise quarterback. And Joe Burrow's taken way too many hits, and he's been hurt way too much.
I don't dislike that at all, as I think that could be good. I just don't think that many linemen go that high. But I don't dislike it. I do have the Saints here. And with the Saints, another tough one. But Cameron Jordan didn't look that good this year. They didn't have too much of a pass. Their defense was pretty solid. But they're a team that I just sensed them going defense again. So I had Jerzon Newton from Illinois, the top interior D lineman in the draft. And I haven't done too much about him, but it sounds like he's really good. I do know that I think he can do both run stuff and pass rush. But I think Saints there, they go with their classic solid pick. I feel like they usually do. Every once in a while they get a little fancy. So I have Jerzon Newton there. That shores up at least my mock draft. I don't know. couple picks. The Denver pick and the Jacksonville pick. Maybe a change. I don't know. Those were tough ones. I think I feel good about the Saints one, though, with Newton. They trade back a little, too.
I
to get a
thought
little
we
more
both
capital.
had really interesting picks. I had one trade. I couldn't think of really any other trades that would make sense, but I think you had 3 trades, which I think would be really interesting.
3.
I think both our mock drafts are pretty solid. It's the first one, so new information, new picks, probably in a future episode. Right now, these are all picks that we have based on the information that we have. Mm-hmm. But I think for both of us, the mock draft is really solid, and I look forward to seeing how this plays out in the future months.
What's your most intriguing early on, pick that you're very intrigued by which direction it goes? Do you have a team?
Patriots are one of those teams at 3 because I think at 3 there's a lot of avenues a team can go because I think the first 2 picks are pretty much no-brainer picks. I think New England, and I think the Bears at 9. I think they could easily make a pick there, or I think they could trade back and get more picks and keep filling out the roster. So the Bears are another interesting one, and I think Seattle is probably the third one because I think will they just try to bolster up that defensive line, or are they going to try to get a quarterback there if he's slipping?
I like those. I'm interested in Vegas. I'm overall really interested in what the Raiders are doing because they have stuff. They don't have a quarterback, but they have stuff. And so they can go, Aiden O'Connell's not it, Jimmy G's not it. They go quarterback. They may trade up for a quarterback. Who knows? Maybe, you had Penix going 12 to Denver. Now I think about it, I don't know if Raiders let that happen. I don't know.
That's the thing. It's when I was doing this mock draft, it was do I think the Raiders let Bo Nix pass by? And I think they kind of do. I think they have a lot of holes on their team where I think they just kind of address those and maybe fill out the quarterback position later in the draft or free agency.
Yeah, they're interesting. And Colts is just a fun one where they can do a lot of things. I don't know. Maybe if a receiver falls, maybe they say we don't think Pierce is it, but I don't think they do that. Brock Bowers would be a fun indie fit if Chargers didn't get him and he fell. Oh.
Yeah, I think both of my drafts were really solid. I was kind of intrigued by some of the picks he made, and I was kind of surprised by some of the picks he made. I think there's about 2 or 3 that I disagreed with, but for the most part, I thought we both did a pretty good job, and I think we both had pretty good picks there.
Agreed. Do we want to take?
So with that, we will now move into our wildcard round predictions. A lot of good games this weekend. We'll begin with the Saturday slate. 2 games on Saturday. First one, Browns at the Texans, and the Browns are 2.5-point favorites.
I saw Noah Brown's playing, and that's really interesting. I think this game, it's interesting that the Texans are at home. Obviously, they won their division. I think the Browns are the better team. So, if Texans were to pull this off, I know it'd be a great strat achievement, and he's set up for a great future, and he's great. But in this game, I can't go against Joe Flacco right now, man. They got a great defense. I see a big Myles Garrett game. I see a nice Flacco game, a nice Amari Cooper game. And honestly, there's a chance it's double digits in my opinion. I feel pretty good about the Browns, and it's tough for a rookie quarterback, even if you're home, to come into a playoff game. Joe Flacco's an experienced vet. Stefanski's at least coached playoff games. D'Amico Ryan's also first-year coach. It's been great what they've done. But I think the Browns are an excellent team. And I really like the Browns here.
A couple things I think you need to take into account before making the pick. And I agree with you, Browns win. But 2 things. When does this Joe Flacco, does he eventually turn to a pumpkin? And is this the game turns to a pumpkin?
No.
And 2, the Browns defense, their home road splits, they are allowing 13 more points on the road than they are at home on average. So that's just something to take into account. I think Browns end up winning this game, but I don't think it's going to be as big a margin as you think it's going to be. I think Joe Flacco at some point is going to revert back.
I don't think you can say that.
He's not going to keep doing what he's doing.
I'm not saying he's going to throw for 300 yards every game, but the dude's experienced.
There's just points where these backup quarterback or backup caliber
he's not.
quarterbacks.
But this is different. He's a former Super Bowl champion quarterback. I don't think it's the same as a Heineke or a Dobbs.
No, of course not. Of course not.
This is different. He can continue to do it, man. I'm all in on the Flacco train.
I think those are just two variables to take into account because Browns defense has definitely not been as good on the road as they have been on the at home. That's just definitely there's a completely different defense.
I think
quarterback Myles Garrett, I think, should be able to wreck shop against this offensive line of Houston. That's the main worry I have. If the offensive line was a bit better, and if Tank Dell was healthy and they were fully healthy at receiver, it'd be really tricky to pick against the Texans here. But I think with all those things taken into account, I think you have to take the Browns here. And I think Browns at -2 is actually really good value. I think they win by single digits, but I definitely think they cover.
Nico Collins versus Denzel Ward.
Yeah, if Denzel Ward can take out Collins,
Nico Collins needs to have a big game. If he doesn't have a big game for the Texans, and I also think we've discussed it, I think Nico Collins is a dog. He had like 1,100, 1,200 yards this year. Like, he's legit. Obviously, Stroud's made him look better, but he's like a legit 1A type of dude. Him and Tank Dell are going to be awesome. But it's also his first playoff game. There is very little experience on the Texans roster playoff-wise. The Browns have a lot more playoff they don't have like this unholy Joe Flacco does. They don't have this besides Joe Flacco, they don't have unholy experience, but about every key contributor has played in a playoff game that I could think of. Because they played against the Chiefs 2 years ago, and did they win a game before? Yeah, they beat the Steelers. I think they're fine. I think they're rolling. Very confident in the Browns in this one. That's probably. I'm very much looking forward to the game. I think it could be really fun. Even though I think I like Browns solidly, I think it'd be really fun.
I think this may be one of the most interesting. I think it's an argument to be made that this is the most interesting game of the week. I think there's more interesting ones out there. Yeah,
I think there's a clear number one, and I don't think anything's more interesting than the number one.
Second game of Saturday slate. It'll be weird watching a Chiefs game on Saturday. It's exclusively on Peacock unless you live in the two areas of the team. Miami at Kansas City. Kansas City are 4.5-point favorites. Over-under is 44, and the wind chill is going to be at -30. So take that information as you will.
Oh, my gosh. Tickets are not that expensive, but you're not going to see us there. Not going to happen.
We have a friend that's trying to talk us into going to the game, and I don't think he knows exactly what he's getting himself into if we win.
He's not going. We're not. Yeah. But this game may suck, which sucks. It may suck. I mean, it's going to be cold. Tua, Miami is like a story.
I think it's going to be Tua's potentially is. Okay, going back to our mock draft real quick. Let's say for whatever reason they lose this game, and they're in the early 20s, and let's say Bo Nix slides to that spot. You take Bo Nix?
Miami. I don't dislike that at all.
Do you take Bo Nix, or do you consider it if you're Miami? I think if he's there, you may have to take him.
It depends on this game, but.
No, that's what I'm saying. If Miami loses, if you're one and done at Tua,
I still like Tua as a quarterback. I saw someone. I wish I saved it. Someone. It could have been like. I have no idea where I saw it. I have no idea where I saw it, if it was a big guy or it was like a TikTok or something. But it could be like Goff with the Lions, or I think maybe Tua has been too zoned into this pure timing system. I still like Tua, but I think there's a 35% chance this is final game, and I think they lose. And it could be ugly. Does a team get the Chiefs receivers? I mean, Rashee Rice is getting like 4 screens on Saturday night. Like, Pacheco, big game. For the Dolphins, one avenue is A-Chain or Chani and Mostert go nuts. But I don't think the Chiefs defense allows it. So I got Chiefs like 20-13 type of deal, and it's going to be ugly, but as long as Chiefs win, we'll be okay.
There are too many things going against the Dolphins here to pick them.
There's way too many. They're so hurt.
Injuries.
They're so hurt.
defensively, they've picked up 34-plus-year-old veterans to shore up their defensive line.
Yeah, if it's 2017 and you told me you had to face Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram, I'd be like,
Yeah.
but not now.
They have injuries on defense, offensive line. Tyreek Hill, I don't think he's even 100%. There was for the Hard
Waddle,
Knocks episode, he on the sideline of the Buffalo game, you can tell that he is playing through. I think he has a maybe mid to high ankle sprain he's playing through, and Tua is throwing these hospital passes to Tyreek. That's playing him more.
okay, I think you're overplaying the hospital passes. I think you're overplaying them.
Okay. Waddle, I think
a couple of them he's just hurt, and I think he's
Waddle
smacked.
Waddle is going out with injury. It seems like every other game. They're playing cold weather. They're 0-10 in sub 40-degree weather.
Mm-hmm.
Tua, I don't think is a strong arm. I think the Dolphins. I think they could potentially run the Chiefs, but will they stick with the run game? A-Chain had 10 carries or was averaging 5.6 yards per carry, and only was given 10 carries against Bills. If they were up by 7 that game, well into the second half, and they kept throwing. I think Miami kind of gets in their own way here, and I don't know. Bills gave them every opportunity to win that game last week, and they squandered it. And I don't think Miami gets to 20 points. I think Chiefs win this 26-17. I think they cover.
Okay, here's my one thing for Miami. This game, not because it's the easiest to win, but if they want to make some weird Super Bowl run, and I don't think they can, this is the perfect game to start it. I don't think they can, but just listen, because maybe Tua plays all right in the cold, and if Mike McDaniel just says we're running the football, maybe it establishes this thing where they're like, hey, we run the ball well. Let's be a running team. So if they win this game, I assume that they've run the ball pretty to very well. So maybe that could set something in motion to where then all of a sudden, like, hey, we can run the ball. But then you likely have to go to Baltimore. But maybe you go and do that again. Even that's an even better defense. Okay, so don't shake your head. I'm not saying they're going to win, and I don't think they're going to.
I know,
but do you get where I'm coming from this? Where
no, because the thing is, even if they beat the Chiefs, let's say they beat the Chiefs, and hopefully they don't.
I don't think the Chiefs are great also, so you can
if they beat the Chiefs for whatever reason, whatever happens, then you have to go to Baltimore. Then if you beat Baltimore, which, my God, you have to beat the Chiefs and Baltimore on the road, then what? You're facing Bills at Buffalo. 3 straight cold games.
Okay, but my point is, maybe all of a sudden they're like, because why can't they run the ball? Like, okay, let me look real quick. I know Achani has great yards per carry.
I don't think they can't run the ball. I think they choose not to.
But no, that's what I'm saying. This could force them to do it. And then Mike McDaniel could say, hey, let's just win. I don't need Tua to do all this. I don't need him to make these perfect timing passes. And I know Achani, 7.8 yards a carry. And Mostert, he's 3 yards less, but still 4.8. I'm just saying the scenario where Mike McDaniel goes in there. He's like, you know what? We're running this football. We may not have the best line, but we have speedsters back there. Even just Jeff Wilson's 4.6. And then, you know what? Maybe he gets super creative. And he says Tyreek Hill's in the backfield a little more. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it just lays out a scenario.
I may be overstating the weather, but I don't think Miami wants to get physical in this type of weather.
But they could be forced into it. I just think they could be. It's a playoff game. It's not like, oh, we don't like him, we're just going to lose this week. I think there's like a chance that it's perfect for them in the weirdest way possible.
I think this game's I would bet the under on this game.
No, yeah.
And I know my score is right at the over-under, but
what's
I think
your score? Did you say your score?
26-17, which would be 43, and the over-under is.
You think Chiefs are getting 26?
2 touchdowns and 4 field goals. That's what they did again. I think it's possible.
But it's cold as hell, man. It's cold as hell.
A bunch of chip shot field goals when they flame out in the red zone.
Trust me. Okay, so I was in, obviously, K-State. I was in Orlando for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Me and my boy Toby are sitting there in line at the Magic game, getting the little T-shirts. This person from Florida is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's so cold while you're down here. It's 55 degrees."
That's my point.
It's going to be 0. Yeah, but I don't even think the Dolphins get 17. But at the same time, Logan, 0 is cold for us. It's 40 outside, and we're not bad from Kansas City. It's still going to be cold, man. 0 is cold. We're not going to negative 30-degree wind chill. Chiefs aren't getting 26 unless it's fumbles and that type of.
You're telling me Tua can't throw a pick?
But 5 scoring possessions? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, they're not scoring. If they score 26, I'd be shocked. But I do have Chiefs. So we've agreed on both picks so far.
Yep. Next game, I know you have your stupid reasons on this one. Steelers at Bills. Bills are minus 10. You're okay. Quick,
I'm not picking the Steelers.
Luke is not picking the Steelers, but yeah,
I have them covering.
Bills and the over-under is up. The over-under is a miserable 35.5. That with Buffalo being favored minus 10 by 10 and an over-under 35. That is.
I'll steal your score. The over will hit 26-17. Bills cover. I think the Steelers. Obviously, if TJ Watt was playing, I'd be
I think it'd be a pretty interesting game because I think
if TJ Watt was playing, I may pick Steelers, but he's not playing.
The wide range of how the Bills can play is such a roller coaster.
I fully understand there's a chance for a blowout.
So I think that my point is you don't know what to expect from the Bills week in and week out. It could be a game where for whatever reason they're still keeping the Steelers are keeping it close because the Bills are playing awful. But I think Bills at home. I think they're going to go back to running the ball a lot. You're not going to see Josh Allen forcing a lot of these throws. I think they're going to go back to the ground and pound, be physical. And I just see Mason Rudolph turning to a pumpkin. I think this is the week where he finally shows his true colors, and I see multiple interceptions.
Man, you are on this pumpkin stuff, aren't you? I don't know. You have a vet. The Steelers. I again don't think they win, but you have Highsmith as a pass rusher. I know you don't have Watt, but you have like Cameron Hayward, who only has 2 sacks this year. We have Golden, who's not bad. I think they'll have a nice pass rush. They'll do okay against the run, and Rudolph will not play good, but he won't be bad. He'll be And I think they cover, but I do like. There's a chance the Bills kill him. I fully understand that, but
I think, Bills cover, but barely. I think by like 11, 12 points.
I think everyone thinks Bills cover.
But I would not. If I'm betting the spreads, I'm not touching this game. So I think it's definitely in the cards that Bills don't cover. But I just don't trust Steelers offense. I don't trust Mason Rudolph. Next game, I think really compelling game. Packers at Cowboys. Cowboys minus 7. Over under is 50.5. So bet the under. Bet the under. 50 over under is 50.5. Do not hit. I think it's been like 1 this year.
That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. And like the Packers, I think each team has shown the ability to go slow. It's all about CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott.
I think this game's gonna come down to if Dallas can run the ball.
Parsons.
Because if Dallas can't run the ball, because here's the thing: I say a lot. Take away the best weapon. But outside CeeDee Lamb, there's not really a threat in the passing game.
I like Brandon Cooks. I know, but
he's more like the downfield.
The Packers are weird. I could see Brandon Cooks having a hell of a game. I'm very intrigued by this game. I think it will be to the end. I think it's coming down like last drive. But I think I trust the Cowboys just enough to pull it off. Packers, that's another cover. I like Packers to cover. But I think Cowboys pull it off just barely.
I agree with you. I actually put money on Packers. It was actually at plus 7.5 a couple days ago.
Yeah,
so I'm happy
I have them too.
If they lose by touchdown, it can still cover for me. I think they keep it close. A lot of people say that this could potentially be a blowout win for the Cowboys.
Nah.
What have the Cowboys done lately? What have the Cowboys done even lately at home that is showing
unless Jordan Love just like falls apart.
Here's the thing with Cowboys.
I've seen enough from him. He's good. I don't think he would.
Before the Washington game, there was a 3-week stretch. They scored 10, 20, and 20. And the 20-point game also came at home against Detroit. They beat up on these really bad teams, really bad defenses. I think Green Bay has a good – the scheme I don't think with Joe Barry's good at all. But there's definitely talent on that defense.
Joe Barry does not have a good scheme. But yes.
They definitely have talent on that defense. And I think if you can – because I really like Jordan Love. I watched the game last week. I was very impressed with him. I think – what you do not want him to do, though, is having to be in situations where he has to force throws into tight coverage. If you can get him in comfortable situations,
not against this defense.
If you get him the run game going, give him play action situations where the linebackers come up, I think that's exactly where Jordan Love excels in. So I think this game, is really going to come down to the offensive defensive line on both sides. I think the run game on both sides of the ball are going to have to open up the passing game, especially for Green Bay. I think they want that running game to open up stuff for them. So I think if Packers want to have a chance at this game, I think A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, they're going to have to play really.
A.J. Dillon's
well.
playing? Is he playing?
Oh no, my bad. He was the only one that didn't practice yesterday. My bad. I misread that.
He has not practiced yet. I think obviously
I thought I saw yesterday. He was the only one that didn't practice yesterday. I don't know about the practice report.
You want like 8 carries from Dillon, where he has like 2. Where I know he's disappointing, but you still want Dillon. But I have Cowboys.
And I think Christian Watson did practice, so I think he practiced yesterday. So that could be if you get Christian Watson back, that's a huge element. To I don't care if he gets he's a huge element just to take the top.
I like Cowboys still 24-21. What do you think about that score?
I was already going to say Cowboys 24, Packers 20. So
close enough.
Yep. Next game, I think this is your game of the week. I'm assuming Rams at Lions. Lions -3. Over under. This is 51.5. You may want to take the under on this one. These don't hit. These over unders of 50.5 or more do not.
This isn't. I don't know, man. This is gonna be.
It's a playoff game. I don't think you're seeing a barn burner.
I seriously don't know who I'm gonna pick as I start talking about it. I mean, Stafford against the Lions, Goff versus McVay. Thank you, Carson Wentz, for winning that game. I think that's awesome. I love this. I love this so much, and I think it's 2 really good offenses. I'll take the Rams quarterback, and the Rams weapons are better, but the Lions have overall a better O-line, depth of weapon. And then I like the Lions defense a little better, but Rams have some young talent.
Teams have been able to run on them now.
Yes, it's very – dude, this game is so good. And I think I told you yesterday I was picking the Rams, but I'm so 50-50. I'm so 50-50. I'm going on Detroit's going to win. This is Detroit. It's a great story. But I'm going 31-28. You know what? Scratch that. 27. No. I don't know what the score is. I'm taking the over, though. 27-24, 31-28, something like that. 31-27. I'm going Lions. Going Lions. I'm not betting. I'm not touching the game bet-wise. I'm letting it be. I just want to enjoy it for what it is.
I bet on this game. I put my money on the Rams. I think Lions last week, playing their starters was a big mistake. They got pretty beat up. If Laporta does not play,
that is big. I agree.
It's similar to the Dallas Cowboys situation. If it's CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra and pretty much not really anybody else is scared. I mean, Jameson Williams has speed.
I have one bet. Yep, Jameson Williams has a big catch.
But
I think bet on longest reception.
If Laporta doesn't play, he adds such elements to the offense. And then I think this is a make or break game for Jared Goff. I think if he loses, I think the Lions have to seriously consider potentially drafting a quarterback, potentially being aggressive and trading up for one, or acquiring one in free agency or a trade. I think if you go one and done for your Lions, this is a year where it's wide open. I think if you go one and done, they have to look themselves in the mirror and be like, we may have to make a quarterback change, or at least draft somebody and have Jared Goff start next year, and maybe
if you lose a shootout.
I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it's gonna be a shootout. I think it's gonna be Rams.
But if you 23, do lose
I think it's gonna be Rams 23, Lions 20.
Really? You don't think the Lions are getting over 20? Oh, you're wrong.
If there's no Laporta, I'm making this pick based on if there's no Laporta. If there's no Laporta, I don't think they get past 20.
The Rams.
What? Okay, fine. 23-21.
We let Derek Carr have a great
Does that make you happy if I say 21? 23-21, 24-21?
No, it doesn't.
Does that make you happy?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Okay, it's 22.
I don't know.
I'll say
Stop.
Okay. Last game. Jeez. Eagles at Buccaneers. Eagles -3. The over-under is 43.5. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a pass since their last game. Baker Mayfield has ankle and rib injuries. I think both teams are banged up.
Happening with AJ Brown. I've done a bad job.
See, okay, I've not seen anything about AJ. I've not seen anything about AJ Brown, press reports or anything. I've not seen anything. I don't know if I'm overlooking stuff, but I can't find anything on AJ Brown.
I've been so into the coaching, injuries have just gone over my head a little.
Okay, AJ Brown did not practice today. He's a non-participant, and he was not in practice, and He was undergoing an MRI yesterday on his knee, as reported at around 8:30 by Tom Pelissero.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't play, and I put money on the Eagles before the games even started last week. Like I put for whatever reason, FanDuel had Eagles Buccaneers already up before they started playing.
That's weird. It wasn't even
so I'm like,
official.
I was like, you know what? Yeah, so I was like, you know what? Eagles at -2.5. I'll take him at minus like 144 or whatever it was. And then we're watching the game and AJ Brown goes down, and we have him on our dynasty team as well. It was a double whammy.
And they just looked terrible. Yeah.
Can I ask something before we make the picks real quick? And I know I hate quarterbacks. Is Jalen Hurts overrated? Or is he starting to enter that conversation on being overrated?
See, but everyone's saying it now.
Okay, but I'm saying like I predict.
I don't know.
I said he's overrated, and then it turns out that everybody thinks he's overrated.
But he was playing so well to start the. Okay, here's my thing. He was playing so well to start the year, and then he got hurt, and then he hasn't been the same. So I don't think if you're gonna go on this like if quarterbacks are hurt, blah blah. Justin Herbert's fingers hurt, blah blah. I think you got to give Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt that he's hurt. Maybe he's not top 3, but
but that's why.
But no one's saying he's top 3 right now, man.
No. That's why I've made a question mark about Nick Sirianni. Okay. You know your quarterback's hurt.
Maybe so. Sirianni, something's.
But you can go into your pick. We've been rambling. You can go into your pick.
I think that I'm not big on Tampa. I mean, they have not had an impressive win. They beat the Packers. That was a good win, but since then it's been
They beat the Panthers 9-0. 9-0. And they could have easily been down 7-0 in that game.
But the Giants were switching between DeVito and Tyrod because they're getting hurt. And they still had like 27. I don't think Tampa's that good. But the Eagles, I think, are so down bad and screwed up. I think they're broken. I think they're a broken football team. And that's why I have Tampa winning. I think it's going to be ugly, disgusting, a terrible football game.
There's a reason why this game is put on Monday night, by the way.
Yes, it was. It was. I have Tampa. I don't like it, but I have them.
I'm going to stick with my gut here. I'm going to say Eagles. I'm definitely taking the under on this game. Now, if A.J. Brown doesn't play, oh, my God. If A.J. Brown doesn't play, I think Eagles.
And what's happening with Devontae Smith?
I bet he plays. I mean, if there's no Devontae, good God. If Brown,
Devontae Julio,
I mean, Dallas Goedert probably has a big game. You probably have to lean more on that run game.
Swift was hurt last week.
I just really don't. I know Eagles have been terrible, but I just don't know if I could trust picking the Buccaneers in a spot, even though they're.
I feel reverse that. I just can't pick Eagles. I can't.
And I'm so mad at myself that I bet the Eagles. I'm such a
if they were playing the Saints, I'd probably still pick the Saints, and that's even more disgusting.
Yeah,
I think they're broken. I just think they're broken, and I don't think they have a resolution for it.
Yeah.
Okay? Before we get done, do we want to make our Super Bowl picks pre-playoffs?
Just a team for. Do you just want to say team from AFC?
Yeah, like who beats who? Who beats who? I was gonna say Niners, Ravens. Still, Niners win. Mine's pretty basic.
I definitely think Niners make it out of the NFC. AFC, I'm really torn between Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs. Like I think all three of those teams you could definitely make an argument for each of those teams. Do I think Bills are consistent enough? No. Right now, the only thing that worries me about the Ravens right now is if you take 2 weeks off, is there any rust there? That's really the only worry I have.
Win that one game against the Browns. I mean, that's tough.
That could be a tough game.
So why aren't Browns in your consideration? If you think Browns are going to win and then you're scared about the Ravens being the Browns, shouldn't the Browns be in consideration?
I just don't. I think I'm saying potentially it could be a scary game for them. I'm going to say Niners. It just feels like a Ravens year, even though Ravens, I still want them to. I want to see them win a playoff game first. But I think right now Chiefs don't really have enough offensively.
I can't wait for Lamar.
But if Ravens lose,
who are you picking?
I'll take Ravens.
Okay, wait. If it's Browns,
Ravens,
Chiefs.
It's
okay. Okay, but let's say Browns beat the Ravens.
Oh,
You
Chiefs
think
and
they
Browns? Give me Chiefs.
Okay, so the Browns go and beat the Ravens, but they can't go and beat the Chiefs.
Do you not understand what I said about the Ravens? They struggle in the playoffs. I still think they go to Super Bowl. But
So you're just saying a Browns win would just mean that they got lucky that the Ravens played bad.
No, Browns definitely play a part in it, but I still think I'm going to. Luke, it's also about, okay, you beat the Ravens, but then you have to go beat Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs. That's tough to do in 2 straight
He's
weeks.
throwing to no one.
Got Rasheed Rice.
I don't even know if the Chiefs beat the Bills. I have no clue. But
No, that game. That's why I wanted the Bills to lose. I bet them. But if they lost, okay, if the Bills were 7th seed and they played Baltimore, I think that'd be a perfect scenario for the Chiefs, and then you could play either Texans or Browns next round. After playing the Steelers,
you're not putting enough respect on the Browns' name. You're just not.
I still see them going to game Super Bowl. Do I think they'd be a scary team? Absolutely. Would I be scared playing them?
If it's Browns Ravens in the divisional round, if it's Browns Ravens divisional round, the winner of that game is going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The Browns are a better team. What are the Chiefs better at than the Browns besides quarterback?
Okay, I know the Browns receivers are probably better, but outside of Amari Cooper, they really have a
Njoku's pretty good.
Okay,
I'll take Cooper and Njoku over Rice and Kelsey. Njoku's probably a lot closer to Kelsey than Rice is to Cooper. It's not like this is Kelsey going for 1,400 yards, Kelsey.
I just think the Mahomes X factor. You can't count Mahomes out. You're basically disregarding anything that Mahomes can do to overcome those things.
I'm just saying I don't think it happens this year.
Now, if the game was if for whatever reason the seeds were flipped and Cleveland was at home against the Chiefs, I'd probably take Cleveland because their defense is completely different at home. But on the road, they're not that good. They're not as good as they are at home.
It's playoffs. You're more locked in.
I'm going to trust Mahomes. I'm going to trust.
Nice.
If it was Cleveland Chiefs, I would trust Mahomes.
So you're just going to pick the Chiefs every flipping.
No. If they play Baltimore, I don't know if it was Baltimore. If Baltimore got the AFC Championship game, it would be tough to pick against them. I probably think they win that game because my only question mark about Baltimore is if they can win a play. Lamar
Bills?
Struggled in the plays. I don't even know about that.
Lamar's so much better. Wait, okay, that's fine to not be. Lamar's so much better than he was.
I just want Luke. You know the phrase. I'll believe when I see it. I just want to see it first. That's all.
Wait, I just realized. Wait, who do you have winning Niners Ravens?
I said Ravens. I think the Ravens win Super Bowl, but will I be shocked if they lose their first game or they struggle? No.
But I'm fine with that as long as you say the Browns can make the Super Bowl if they win that game.
Fine,
so if it's Browns Chiefs,
I've already explained my reasonings.
But you're just like I'm very confident.
I want to say no. I just said they would scare me. We played them. I just said that. I said, do I think Browns are a scary team in the playoffs? Yes. Do I think they can make it? Do I see them in the Super Bowl? No. I think they're a very scary team, though. I just don't see it happening.
Again,
that's just me.
You don't see it happening. So if it's AFC Championship game, Chiefs Browns, you're like.
Please, I just told you I don't see the Browns winning or going to Super Bowl. I just answered that question.
So you answer this directly though. If it's Chiefs Browns, AFC Championship game,
okay.
You're going in there like I'm 85% sure we're winning this game.
No, not at all. I would say like 60.
Then how can you not see them in the Super Bowl? I'm not saying you
because I can't because I just can't see them beating. I'm not saying that they can't compete with the Chiefs. In my mind, I just don't see the Cleveland making Super Bowl this year. I just don't.
They're honestly, Ravens Browns is going to decide who goes to the Super Bowl. You doubt Joe Flacco's elite, man.
Part of me, I bet Cleveland and a lot of my picks this week and betting. Part of me wants them to see him lose so this argument can be put to bed.
I bet you do.
I want to make money.
Lover boy.
Hey, I know we need to end this episode. We've been rambling for too long. I did say beginning of the year. You didn't even say Charlotte better than Mayfield. I think that's just by far.
Okay, I was wrong there, but.
And I was called. Can you apologize? Because I was called closed-minded and just like wrong to say at that point. I just want before we end.
I don't think at that point you could say he was better.
Eye test.
He had
it's
one
just the
good
eye
game.
test. It was before that game that we were picking Buccaneers and Tampa.
He lost to the Panthers. Didn't he lose the Panthers right before that?
Rookie quarterback's gonna do that.
Yeah, that's the whole point. He's a rookie quarterback. That's the whole reasoning.
Yeah, but he's not a typical rookie quarterback.
Okay,
That's just one bad
now
loss.
he's not. Again, he has. I really like Stroud. He's like, if there's a redraft, he'd be like the 5th quarterback or something. But
okay. Now
he has one really good. That's his big win. And
what? Just against
Tampa? He made great throws.
Not last week. Last week was a playoff game, and they
last
won.
week was a big win, but the Colts.
That's on the road divisional game.
The Colts kind of choked.
To be honest, here's the thing though. If Houston doesn't miss the extra point, we're just like thinking, okay, Houston, it's either going to overtime or Houston's getting the ball back and probably getting a field goal. Houston was in pole position that whole even if they don't miss the extra point, we're not even talking about Colts choking. And I know Colts they still choked it, but they scored touchdowns. Like okay, it's gonna be a tie game.
Oh, yeah, it was a good win. You're right. I shouldn't have said that. It was a good win, but Colts did choke.
And you beat Jacksonville early in the year, like destroyed them.
Jacksonville sucks.
Not at that point.
No, they sucked. They always sucked. They just had a good record. They always sucked.
That's tough to say.
Okay.
We're getting to. I think we need an episode before we start arguing about different topics. So is it okay if I end this? It's okay if I end this?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry we talked for like 14 minutes about just random crap. But just make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. Make sure to like the video. We are uploading episodes of Spotify now, so if you want to also follow the episode on Spotify, we would appreciate that as well. Just look up Blazer Bros Podcast, and it should pop up. But until then, next week we'll probably talk about wildcard round. Maybe talk about a few quarterbacks, depending on how results.
Maybe coaching stuff happens.
Yeah, coaching stuff. Yep, and then we'll do our divisional round predictions. But until then, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you then.
Peace.